All right, Kate, I think we've got a few slides that you're in charge of.
Perfect. All right. First of all, thanks again for coming. Thanks for taking time out of your day to hear about the things that we're working hard to put together for you and for your students. As we go through the presentation today, just a couple logistical things. If you hear us use, if we say EVA, we are referring to the Everest Virtual Academy. So we'll probably say EVA instead of saying the whole thing as we go through. And if you look on the screen, if you joined us via computer, and I know Jeff mentioned it already, but if you've joined us since, you'll see the buttons on the bottom. So I just want to draw your attention to some of those functions really quick before we get started. So way over on the left-hand side, you'll see a mute or unmute button. We'd ask you would keep your computer muted as we go through today, just because it helps with that background noise. If you joined us via phone, if you would mute your microphone as well. And I apologize, my children are outside of my door. The joys of working at home, the struggles we all go through. So that would be great if you could do that for us. The next thing that I want to point out is the video button. So there's no reason you need to have video on. If you would like to turn it off, you're more than welcome to turn it off. Sometimes with country internet, it does interfere with the audio. So if we're coming through and we're not coming through clearly, or we're kind of cutting out, that would be something you could try to do. Just shut your video off and the audio would come through a little bit more clearly. The last thing is the chat function in WebEx, which is a really neat feature to kind of ask some of your questions as we go without having to actually pipe in. With so many of us here, it's kind of hard to know who's going to talk and when. So if you've joined us on a computer, if you would open that chat function right now, it should open a screen just right off to the right-hand side of WebEx. As we go through today, if when we're talking, if anything, and Jeff, you could actually probably click to the next slide. I'll back up a little bit. We're going to present some information in 5 different segments. So really focus on 5 different areas of the EVA. And as we're going through, if you have a question that relates to what we're talking about, go ahead and just throw it in that chat bar, and I'll watch that, and then I will direct those questions towards at the end. We'll pause after each section and give you an opportunity to ask some of those questions. And then at the end, again, we'll wrap it up with any questions we haven't covered yet. So there'll be a lot of opportunity to do so. Just double check that mics are muted for us. I think, Jeff, you can click to the next slide. This would be the 5 areas that we're gonna go through, talking about the curriculum of the EVA and the opportunities. There are lots of opportunities. Parent engagement and what it looks like to learn at this to keep your learner engaged. Schedules and calendars and how that relates to the DC Everest School District, the roles of the teachers and the coaches that are in the program, and how to enroll or details about enrollment. And I think that's it. I'll give it up to Jeff.
All right, thank you. So the first thing that we want to really talk about in a little bit is the curriculum. And this is a question that we've been answering emails and calls about. So has if we could really quick, someone is joining the meeting, and that's fine. If you could take a look, if you click on the screen that you're seeing to the far left, you will see the ability to mute your mic. And if you mute your mic, that'll reduce some of that feedback so that everyone can hear the points we're covering. So for our curriculum, this has partnered with the Wisconsin eSchool Network. And Wisconsin eSchool Network has been around 2007. They are providing a virtual learning curriculum and that virtual experience for both students and families. And throughout this presentation, you're going to hear us use the term learners and students kind of interchangeably. They both mean the same thing. So for WEN, they've been around since 2007, and they're a Wisconsin-based nonprofit company. Their whole goal, their mission, is to connect school districts across the state who are interested in offering virtual learning for their students. And that provides a lot of benefits for us as DC Everest. So we are in the process of hiring local DC Everest teachers who will be available to teach classes for students. And we also will have access to teachers from across the state. So as we sign up your students for courses, if we can, we're going to put them in courses with DC Everest teachers. But there will be times that we don't have an Everest teacher who has applied to be an online instructor. So we would reach out into the network. So your child could have a teacher from La Crosse, from Oshkosh, from even Kiel, Wisconsin. Kiel, Wisconsin's been a member of WEN from the very beginning, and they actually provide some of the math instruction for students from the Madison Metropolitan School District. So a lot of experienced teachers across the network who are going to be able to provide a quality learning experience for your students. And as part of this, 612 learners are going to use a variety of digital learning resources that come from the Wisconsin eSchool Network. One of the things that we want to point out is that WEN uses a very robust student information system, and it's called Genius. So think of our Infinite Campus, okay? So if you are enrolled in our on-site learning schools, you use Infinite Campus. We would use Genius. I actually just got access to Genius as the program leader, and it looks just like I remember it when I was teaching summer school. It gives us a lot of information. We can look for courses that are available in the statewide network to be able to find access for your students for courses that they're interested in. And then they use a different LMS. So we really want to stress that with parents. So if you're doing on-site learning, you're using Infinite Campus and you're using Canvas. Okay, and I think everyone has finally kind of gotten comfortable with using those two. They use an LMS called Buzz. It is super simple, organizes all the learning in modules. Kids have to complete a module to go on to the next module. So we're able to allow kids to work through the process. But a big thing that we want to point out with this is that it is fully virtual. So the learning itself happens through the module. Some of them are very interactive. If they're taking a science course, they may be manipulating things on the screen to really get a sense of the concept or that content. There's going to be reading involved. There's going to be independent learning involved. The teacher is there. They will provide very frequent feedback. They will also reach out and connect with families. One of the things that I would say is a hallmark of their Genius system is that a teacher can do a weekly progress report very simply, and they can go through and check student, parent, coach, guidance counselor, and all of them will receive that email. So wanted to make you aware of those differences, because what we're trying to do is say, if you choose this fully virtual experience for your child, it's a choice. You know, you would be choosing, you know what, we're going to be willing to learn a couple new systems so that our student can engage with this. But we would point out, this is not like the offsite learning that happened in the spring. And, you know, offsite learning, teachers had 3 days notice that we were going to this offsite learning. They built curriculums based on that. This is established. We have access to fantastic quality courses that come from Florida Virtual School, eDynamic Learning, even Carone Fitness. If your child had signed up for health or for Phy-Ed classes, they can still take those in the EVA. They don't miss out on taking those. But again, a lot of it's independent. You're going to receive instruction. You probably have to videotape yourself, maybe doing an exercise that the teacher would look at, or you're explaining a concept. We do have, they call it foreign languages, and that's just the company Middlebury. We call it world languages. But even within world languages, we want to point out some differences, because the Chinese, for example, goes Chinese 1 and 2. They don't offer a 3. French, they offer 1, 2, and 3, but they don't offer a 4 or a 5. They do offer an AP French, So a student would potentially be able to take that course, take the AP test, and be able to earn college credits. And they offer German through German 1 and 2. Spanish goes all the way to Spanish 4. So again, if your student is in a certain spot and you're like, well, but they need to be able to take German 4. If you want them in this fully virtual option, they don't offer German 4. So that will probably have to go into your decision-making process. But the biggest thing that we want to make sure that parents understand is that all these courses are aligned with DC Everest as well as state standards. They're aligned with them. So our goal is that if your child, if you choose to enroll them only for the first semester, they will be able to step into their second semester schedule. And in fact, when we do this, what we're going to end up doing is we pull them out of courses that are in the first semester part of their schedule. We will add all these virtual school courses to their schedule, and we leave second semester intact. And in December, you'll be able to make a choice. Do I feel that I want my child to go back to on-site learning? And you could do that, and then they would step into that second semester schedule. Or if you want them to continue, and I would say that we have heard from a lot of districts around the state, there are many students who in this type of fully virtual environment, they excel. They were built for this. And you may find that your students in this environment have more success than on-site learning. And it's this is the way that they learn the best. And you may decide, I want my student to be in this school for second semester as well. And it's going to be available for that. So the format of the classes, this will be important. By design, there's no face-to-face instruction. Built into the courses, there isn't a WebEx or a Zoom where teachers are teaching the content via that. The content is built into these courses. They have been around a long time, and they work. They truly do work. Teachers are there to facilitate that learning. They are there to provide frequent quality feedback to students. And here's where I would say that is a big benefit of what EVA has to offer. Teachers have the ability to use video feedback. So on an assignment, they could choose to opt for video feedback, record that. And so a student would see a teacher's face, hear their voice. They can also do voice feedback. And they can do traditional text type feedback on an assignment. So unlike a blended option, okay? So where you might log into a WebEx meeting and follow your peers, that's not what this is. You're not logging in second hour to watch a WebEx of your teacher in the class teaching. Virtual classes, they're going to require you to dedicate your time to complete virtual lessons with regular feedback from a teacher that you might not see face to face. Here's what I can tell you. We did interviews yesterday, 9 interviews, and I cannot tell you how inspired I was by every single candidate that we interviewed. They are in this for the right reason. They want your kids to succeed. And so many of them said, well, of course I'm going to do a WebEx to introduce myself to families. I want them to know me. I want them to hear my voice, see my face. Of course, I'm going to reach out and make regular contact with families. Every single person had that approach to this. And that was actually exciting for us as we were going through interviews. So I hit on this before, but the Virtual Academy is going to use a variety of teachers, as many local DC Everest teachers as we can provide. And here's why. We know the quality of our Everest teachers, and the more teachers from Everest that we can have teaching these courses, we know the high success rates of students in the network, still high success rates. But I think you all know, having that connection to a teacher who has been in Everest and is dedicated to our students, it's just an added benefit. Along with this, you'll have an EVA program coordinator. That's Kate Wallersheim. We will have a school counselor, and I'll hit on this next. You'll also have a connection coach. So one of the features of the Everest Virtual Academy is coaches, these connection coaches. And these connection coaches are meant to serve as a bridge between students, families, the school, as well as the virtual teacher, because you could have a teacher from La Crosse, a teacher from Oshkosh, a teacher from Kiel, and you might have 3 teachers from Everest. And the coach is there to help kind of bring everything together. So the last bullet here, and we'll go into coaches a little bit more. The last bullet here is that some courses will have interactive activities to help a student learn a concept. But, and I want to stress this again, most fully online courses are going to have an extensive reading as well as require independent work by a student with mentoring from an adult in the family. Now, when I say mentoring, we've heard all the feedback. We're not talking about you doing your child's homework. That's not what we're talking about. But a parent, and what I'll refer you to, if you haven't already been to the 612 website, please go to that 612 website. And after today's meeting, at some point, you'll get if you decide to sign your child up for the academy, you'll get a confirmation email with a link to the academy as well. But if you go to the academy and take a look at the link, you'll be able to see roles and responsibilities, and we clearly articulate, hey, this is the help we need from parents with this online learning. There is also a link that I think is super important, given what we have described with format of classes. There is a link that talks about online learner readiness, and there is a rubric you could use, and there's kind of a questionnaire for students. You do not have to complete and send these in. These are not required for getting into the academy. Every DC Everest student gets into the academy if you enroll them. But I think those documents will help you have a conversation with your student, with your learner, and you can sit down, and as you score that rubric, if you are seeing kind of qualities in your kid, and at the end you're like, I don't know if this is the right learning environment, maybe that helps you make a choice that you want to go face-to-face. But if you choose to put your child in EVA, we're going to support them. We are going to help them to be successful. We just want to make sure that you have tools that help you have a conversation as a family as you're making this choice. Question and answer session. Kate, do we have questions?
We do. So I do just want to address the fact that if I don't get to your question now, I'm waiting until it fits better with a different section of the presentation. So if we don't chat about it right now, make sure that we get to it before the end of the presentation. So Jeff, connected to this part of the and some questions about specific coursework. So could you maybe talk a little bit about if my son or daughter has enrolled in courses for the fall, are they taking the same courses through the EVA or what that looks like? And then maybe connected to those specific classes like Spanish 5.
Sure. The courses align with ours, so they're named a little different. So here's an example. They have English 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade level. And so instead of taking English 11 as a junior at the high school, they'd be taking English 3. But it's the same type of coursework. That course goes on their transcript. They receive credit towards graduation for it. What I can tell you is there's a part of the reason we chose the eSchool Network, there's a pretty big catalog of courses, and we're going to try to align it with the courses that we currently offer in our on-site learning as best we can. But there may be courses in the big catalog that, because we're putting together this option for this year to address a specific need, maybe some of those courses we trim down, pare down a little bit. But as we move forward and we all are better adjusted to this, we will probably open up that catalog. And that is why a lot of schools across the state join this, particularly rural schools, because their students have access to courses they otherwise wouldn't have access to. So we will align them as best we can. And the good thing is we actually don't unenroll your student from whichever of the 3 schools that they are in. They're still enrolled as a student there. And I will point out, you get the benefit. You're a student at the middle school. So if they have co-curriculars that your student's involved in, you're still able to participate in those co-curriculars. If they have activities, you can still participate. Maybe this semester you're participating virtually, but you still get to participate. And I think that's a big benefit. When we run into those bumps in the road, student needing Spanish 5, I think that's where we probably have to have a conversation. What I would say is, I can guarantee that your student's going to get those courses you have them set on a path for in our on-site learning. That's where I can guarantee if they need Spanish 5, we have teachers for Spanish 5. We're able to offer that. We don't have the capacity right now to be able to do a blended model. We're not there yet. We are still in the process. When we interviewed candidates yesterday, we're still kind of designing the plane and we're in the air and we're trying to put together the best option for you. So maybe second semester we're in a better position to do that, but with the expectations of on-site teachers to be able to offer in-person as well as blended virtual, we're looking at, we have to be fully virtual at the start of things.
So to piggyback off of that, Jeff, some questions coming in about AP coursework, specifically if the student has already done some of the summer coursework. How does that translate? Will those AP programs be offered? Are they the same? And what happens with that summer work?
Sure, that's a great question. So there are AP classes in the catalog. So at the junior high, there is AP government, just like you would have AP government and institutions, I think, here. What I would say is your teacher in the on-site learning, they're kind of handing out the coursework bit by bit. The thing, and we want to be fully transparent, the thing that can maybe be daunting, let's say your student signs up for and gets 4 AP courses. When they log in to Genius, they are going to see everything in all 4 courses. And it can look daunting because you're going to see all the modules and all the assignments for your AP Lit class. You're going to see all of the courses and assignments for your AP US History class. So if you come in with the mindset, I know that when I log in, I'm going to see a lot, but I don't move forward in the class until I complete a module. So really, even though you see everything, you're working your way through module by module. So, and that's where our coaches, and we're going to talk in more detail about them later, they're going to help your student lay out a weekly learning plan, a weekly goal plan, so that they can take that large, maybe daunting looking course in a virtual environment and kind of break it into pieces.
Okay, how about how many classes will students be allowed to enroll in at one time, and will they be allowed to work ahead through those modules you were just talking about?
Sure, and the way modules are set up is that when you complete and have gotten the required grade or coursework to be able to bump into the next module, you'll be able to do that. What was the first part of the question, Kate?
How many classes they could enroll in at one time?
Sure. So what we're looking to do, we want to guarantee that students get their core coursework, and some students are really built for this and they're going to excel in this, and that's the feedback that we hear. Could a student feasibly take 6 courses, take 7 courses? Yes. But the feedback that we've gotten from in Oshkosh as well as in Stevens Point and Kiel is really try to maybe have a student take 1, 2, 3 classes at a time. Would we stop an accelerated student from taking more than that? No, but you have to be aware of the deadlines for all of those courses. The nice thing is you could take 3 at one time, and if you finish one, because I really got into this class, I got through the coursework, I got my passing grade in it, can we add another course? You know, can I move on to the next course that I wanted? Yes. So feasibly you could work through, but you've still got that 18 weeks to get done with it. So that's just something to bear in mind. And we know that different students learn at different paces. A student could take more courses, but we want to make sure we're working with families on that.
So, and Jeff, I think you mentioned, or I think you answered this question already before, but a question about if a senior were to enroll in the EVA, would they be able to participate in graduation? I would assume yes, absolutely.
They're an evergreen.
Yes.
Evergreen. So I think the biggest thing is that we want to stress this is a program. We're not a separate school. We're not a charter school. This is a program. And it's a program that in this moment we're offering because parents asked for it. And the school board said, yes, provide this. So that's what we're doing in the moment. Moving forward, some of your students, they're going to excel at this and you're going to want this as their option moving forward. And yes, they're going to graduate as an evergreen.
And then there's a couple of questions about teachers that I'll save for a little bit later in the presentation, but just to a heads up, a question about IEPs as well. And I know that we do cover that, but maybe important to share that absolutely students with IEPs, absolutely, this is a program that will work and would be a good fit as well.
Yes, and currently the plan is that a student's case manager that they would have for this year will be their case manager, but we're going to look at numbers. I can tell you that as of about 10:30 this morning, there were 181 students who had enrolled in the 612 EVA. And if those numbers continue to grow, we may have to look at, do we dedicate a special education teacher to oversee all the students? But we'll play that when we get to it, but definitely services will be provided. So we'll move on to parent engagement. And this part I really want to stress again. In this program, you as parents, you're going to serve as a mentor and work in direct partnership with the virtual academy teacher and coach. We're not expecting you to help your children with their homework, to figure out the math. We're not asking you to do any of that. But key pieces, and if you take a look at the roles and responsibilities link that's on the 612 tab on the website, you'll see that we lay out for parents. This is really what we're looking for. We ask that you dedicate a space. And I think we all know having your student near the television, trying to do homework. I always told my mom I could balance that and I really couldn't. A dedicated space that, hey, this is the learning space for online learning. So we're asking that you provide that. And parents, along with each learner, they're going to be required to attend a weekly conference with their coach. And the coach will work out when that happens, because the coach serves as such a vital bridge between students and their families, because we have to help you be able to learn that Buzz and Genius system that your student's going to have to use to work in this virtual environment, and the coach plays an important role in that process. But also, I know for a fact how our Everest teachers have told us they're going to approach communication with parents, and I am greatly excited about that. The coach is going to serve as that bridge. If you have a teacher from lacrosse, they're going to help them understand that maybe you need an extension because of something, and they're going to make sure that they're communicating. And we just ask that if your student needs flexibility in your weekly schedule. So here's an example. This happens all the time in school learning. Your student's going to be out for 5 days because they're sick. Let that coach know, because the coach can reach out. Otherwise, if you or the student haven't already told the teacher we're going to be out 5 days, they might suddenly, alarm bells are going off. They're saying, hey, this student isn't interacting with their work. They haven't logged in at all. And then they're contacting the coach. Make sure you contact the coach, and that's going to allow us to help smooth that process with the teacher. So we make sure it happens. And you know what? There are family concerns. Emergencies happen at home all the time. If we know about it, we can maybe have your course extended a little bit because your student wasn't able to work on it. But if we don't know those things, just like in school learning, it makes it a challenge for us to reach out to teachers and try to get them to make those adjustments. So that would be a key piece of it. What I would say is that the 612 EVA staff is going to work collaboratively with families and parents. And we have to ensure all together that your child is engaging actively. I can tell you when I logged into Genius earlier today, we have the ability to check if your kids are logging in at all. So for those of you, and I've heard this in emails and phone calls in the last week, but how am I going to know if my kid's done? In the spring, they told me they spent 3 hours working on something. I can tell you that the system tells the teacher when a kid is actually engaging in work, not just that they opened an assignment and then walked away. They have to be engaging with it, and the system knows they are or aren't. So that'll help a teacher. So when you contact your student's virtual teacher and you say, Timmy said they were working on this for 3 hours, the teacher, they might very well tell you, actually, he logged in for 2 seconds and then he left, which could provide you an answer. So I think even though this will be fully virtual, you're still going to get great communication from all of us to help you know that your student's on track, or if they're not, hey, let's develop a plan so we can get them back on track. All right, the schedule and the calendar. We're going to follow the same schedule. And this makes sense because if you only have your student in the virtual academy for the semester, we want to make sure they can step into second semester okay. And that's why we would follow the same calendar. School's going to start on September 1st, day one that they can log in and do all their work. EVA teachers, though, they're going to be flexible with their daily schedule to best meet the needs of each learner and the family. This is probably not a traditional 7:30 to 3:30 schedule. And when I say that, your students have access to their coursework 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If they want to work ahead, if they want to do things, they have the ability to do that. But as far as our teachers and their availability, during the interviews, they were very aware. They said, this isn't a 7 to 4 job. I'm going to maybe have some of my office hours in the morning, some of my office hours in the meeting, and I'm going to decide that when I get a chance to meet all the families and learners and figure out what works best for them. And so that to me was pretty key in this process. EVA teachers, they're not going to have required live lessons. So again, this is not like a blended learning model. The learning part is built into the modules. It really is. Students can go through, they're going to learn the concepts. They might watch a video that's embedded. They might do an interactive activity, but they're designed by the end of that, they should be able to do well on an assessment. And if they don't, teachers have the ability to allow students to do retakes and things like that, just like you would get in on-site learning. I think a key point of what we have planned is that there will be a weekly learning plan. We call these touch point meetings with coaches for each student. Those are required. Students have to participate in those. And teachers are going to have designated office hours. Now it says for 2 hours per week here, but we're looking at a variety of staffing options. If we have enough students who are enrolled in our virtual school, so I'll ballpark a number. Let's say we have 300 students who enroll in the 612 EVA. That's an elementary school. I mean, when you think about it, the number of students who are enrolled. So then we take a look at staffing options. Maybe we have some teachers that are full-time. This is their teaching job for the first semester. Maybe some teachers are half-time in the classroom, half-time virtual. So we're looking at all those options. We have a number of teachers who are interested in teaching beyond the classes that they teach. One of the candidates we interviewed yesterday was like, I know you're going to need social studies teachers. And so I applied. I have a passion for social studies. I actually have a license to be able to teach up into middle school. I want to help out because I know you're going to need it. So I really hope that you understand how much our Everest staff is really invested and interested in helping make this successful for your students, but then also in the program moving forward. Questions and answers again.
Yes. So I think you addressed a couple of the questions that were in there about guaranteed teacher availability for contact. You talked about the weekly meetings and the 2 hours, and I think you covered that. There's a question about scheduling. So will we have an advisor working with families to help them schedule classes, or what will that look like?
So I think initially we're going to try to engage the help of the school counselors with this, with 181 and growing students. Right now, Kate and I are the ones who create student enrollments. We actually enroll students in courses. We may probably need for school counselors to sit down with students, and we'll try to make the available courses available to all the counselors so that they can say, hey, these are the courses that most closely line up with your schedule. And once we kind of have those locked in, and if there's a class that we just can't fit in that you had scheduled, they're going to have access to know what courses we're offering. So is this elective maybe an okay fit so that you continue to take an elective? Because I know there's concern about, especially at that 9-12 level, being able to take enough electives that you're on course for graduation. We're going to work with you on that. It just might not be the same elective that we offered in an on-site learning environment.
I think we're good for now, Jeff. Go ahead and go to the next one.
Okay. All right. Teacher and coaching roles. So a big thing is that no matter whether your student has an Everest teacher or they have a statewide network teacher, it's a highly qualified teacher. And in our interviews, we are looking for the people who are best suited for online instruction. They are going to facilitate your students' learning. They're going to give high quality feedback. They're going to connect with learners and with parents. And those are really the important pieces of the puzzle. But again, using that Genius system, they can log in. They know who's been active in a module or in an activity, and they can reach out. I can tell you that during our interviews, we heard time and again, teachers are going to reach out, Everest teachers, even if your child's doing well. They just want to let you know, hey, are you aware of the fact your kid just nailed this quiz that they had to take? I wanted you to know that. And certainly if your student is struggling a little bit, they're going to make sure they reach out and listen. And we're going to try to put the pieces in place that will best allow us to provide this great experience for your student and support your students. A key component of this is a connection coach. And that connection coach, we all know, look, academic success, it's important, and we know that. If the spring taught us anything, we need to make sure that we have someone that we can support a student's well-being, their mental and physical health, make sure that they're okay. Because when these things happen, they don't just affect the student, they affect whole families. We know some of you are trying to make decisions on, how are we going to be able to have our student home to be able to do this learning online, but we think we need them home. Making sure that everything is okay is a key role of that connection coach. So full-time teachers, let's say after we look at enrollments, we decide we need 4 full-time teachers. Those full-time teachers in the interviews, all of them said, well, I'm going to have 2 hours a day that I'm available for office hours. And I'm going to make sure that I communicate. And I might have a different schedule for myself each day because it meets the needs of the students and the families and the courses that I have. So I think you need to be aware of that. That's why I was excited we had those interviews. We know from our pool of candidates what they're thinking about for this instruction. A part-time teacher, so someone who has maybe their full course load during the day, and then they want to teach virtual in after school, they're going to be required to have 2 office hours a week, and those will be guaranteed times that you could connect. Will they be available for you beyond that? Of course they will, and many of them have said that. One of our interviews, they said, you know what, I come home from school, I take care of my virtual work, then I close the computer, but you know what, I've got my phone, I can answer texts, I can answer emails, I can answer a phone call if I get that. So even though they're doing that part-time role, they're still going to be available to you. For some courses, you might have a teacher from the statewide network. And one of the things is we have to follow their guidelines, because just like we're setting up a virtual school, they have. So we'll work through that process, but all of them are going to provide feedback. All of them are very good about contacting students, contacting parents. So it'll just differ somewhat from if you have that Everest teacher who might provide a little bit of extra through a WebEx and things like that. So this actually gets to a little bit of what we talked about early. Students with IEPs or a 504 plan, right now they're still going to have the case manager as they did, unless those enrollments grow beyond projection. And in that case, the district is going to reevaluate and take a look at how we're going to staff that particular role. But those services will be provided. If the need were to arise, remember, we're a program. If you're a student at the senior high, but you choose to get your learning through the EVA, you're still a student at the student high, at the senior high. So you're going to have access to a school counselor, to the school social worker, to the school psychologist. All those services we would normally provide, we're going to make sure that we provide for you as well. That doesn't go away because you're still a student at the middle school or the junior high or the senior high.
All right, I think we have a couple questions in this area, Jeff. So the first one, could just some clarification on teacher assignments. So can we guarantee that a DC Everest AP government teacher will be teaching AP government through the EVA? And if not, what does that look like?
We can't, because it all depends. It's our pool of candidates. If we have someone who applied and is interested in teaching in our virtual academy and they are qualified to teach AP government, and they're a great fit for online learning, yes, we can provide that. But I had a lot of conversations with my friends who are principals across the state who utilize virtual learning. If you get a teacher from Oshkosh, or you get a teacher from Eau Claire, or you get a teacher from Kiel, they're going to be quality teachers for that AP curriculum. And even though you don't have like Mr. Thompson at the junior high, maybe teaching AP government, you're still going to get a quality AP government course.
All right, a question about the course catalog. So will these be allowed to pick from the course catalog that you've mentioned, or are we scheduling students based on their course selections from the spring?
That's a great question. And I'm currently working with Dr. Thompson, our curriculum director, and we're actually taking SPASH's courses, and we're trying to see, hey, taking a look at these courses, do all these make sense to offer first semester? And if so, great. That'll kind of be our model. If not, and we're going to use SPASH as the model because they have had an online academy for 10 years. They're really experienced with this. So for our first attempt at this, we want to make sure that we're doing things in a way that we can support learners and families. So after Dr. Thompson and I take a look at that list and we maybe pare it down or leave it the same, we'll actually publish that on the website so that you'll be aware of courses that you have an opportunity to take along with descriptions.
Perfect, thanks. How about the teacher to student ratio? And then it's probably important you talk about the coach to student ratio too.
Sure. And it's important to understand that, functions. So teachers in this fully virtual world, the courses are already created. They are there. Normally, if you have an on-site teacher, they have to develop that course. They have to design it. They have to do all of those things. And in this case, that's already created. We have stressed with the candidates we've interviewed the importance of that quality feedback. Honestly, when I meet with the teachers that we end up hiring for these positions, my key message to them is going to be, we know that you are used to quote unquote owning the courses that you teach in face-to-face learning. We're going to ask that you take all that energy that you would normally put into owning that course and making it your own and put it into connections with parents and families and students, really developing that rapport so that families feel comfortable contacting you when they have a question or a concern. So that part's different. And then, so the ratio that we have, again, because they're not designing the course, currently we're looking at, and this is based on what other school districts who do virtual are doing. And every school district in the state is having to plan for a virtual academy just like we are. We're looking at 150 to 1 which is close to what a teacher who teaches 5 courses who might have 28 or 30 kids in a class, but we're not looking to do more, okay? And certainly we have to be a little bit flexible in terms of this. So we put it as a top end, 150 to 1. A teacher who maybe teaches all AP courses, we might have to trim those down a little bit, because even though the learning goes on in the modules, feedback and writing involved in an AP class is a pretty large component of it. We want to make sure that they have the ability to provide that quality feedback. So this is where coaches come in. Coaches are again, I've said it before, that bridge. They're the ones, and coaches are not necessarily counselors, although we did interview a counselor yesterday who was interested in doing coaching. But they're going to know if I'm a coach who is a teacher in the district and I come upon something, I'm working with a family and something just seems like a student struggling, I'm going to make sure that I reach out to that student's school counselor. Maybe they're going to reach out to Dr. Bohm at the senior high because they really think that that's a connection that student needs. And those coaches, we're going to make sure they have the ability to do that. They have a ratio of 30 to 1. Okay. And what we're looking to do is put them where their strengths are going to be. And again, when I told you that I was just so inspired by what I heard in interviews, we actually had an elementary school teacher apply for one of the coaching roles. And we said, hey, how do you think you're going to do with 6th graders, 7th graders? And he said, I'm going to do fine because I've known those kids since kindergarten. And I applied for this job because I know they're going to need a coach and I know those families, and it's important that we provide those services. So I, again, want you to know how invested the Everest staff is in making this work for you and your student if you make this choice. Those coaches are going to make sure that they can provide those services. We had a question after, I think, session 1 this morning. Certainly we'll make exceptions because maybe it makes sense that you've got a couple kids and that coach might have more than just what students in a certain grade level. But I think what we want to do first is match them up at grade levels and where their strengths are. And if we have to do tweaks after that, we'll look at doing tweaks for that.
You touched on this briefly. Do students need to have a designated time for school, or will they have a schedule where they're attending classes, or is that something where there's flexibility?
That's where there's flexibility. And no, they're not attending class at a specific time. And I need you to think about this. Their teacher in lacrosse might be a full-time teacher teaching 5 courses. And so they're not doing a live lesson in front of students, but during their day or when they get done with their job in lacrosse, now they're going to attend to student feedback and work. So there's not a schedule, but this is where the coaches are going to come in. And I will tell you that when the coaches kind of have their orientation with families, we're going to have a list of things to go over. And one of them will be, you should probably establish a schedule with your student so that your student knows, you know what, from this time to this time, I need to work on this. Here's what's really nice, because you're not locked into that bell period schedule. Maybe your kid on Monday, they're just like, I'm going to tear into math. I'm really, getting these concepts. All I'm going to do is math all day Monday. Great. And then Tuesday, you're going to do English. That would be great as well. So not set in that, but I think we're going to encourage you as a parent to maybe set some guidelines for your student. It's interesting. I'll tell you, I talked to Craig Geis, and Craig Geis owns Spring Green Lawn Care. And he was out at my house and we talked, and he said, during the spring, I told my son, hey, we're going to be at the lake house. And if you get done with this, and this for school, you get to water ski, you get to ride the jet ski, you get to do those things. So maybe families say, if you dedicate this time of the day to learning, these are things you would then have an opportunity to do afterwards. So we'll make sure that when we meet with parents, we kind of help develop that weekly plan and weekly schedule.
So I'm going to give you one more question to transition into the enrollment information, and then we'll address some other things at the end. But so in terms of enrollment, some questions about what does in-person school look like as of now, and how do we make that decision between in-person and EVA?
Sure. So I think what you know now comes from the email that Dr. Gilmore sent out on Friday. And so you kind of know about that cohort, that blended model at the middle school and at the junior high. And then in that cohort model, we're saying that your students are there a couple of days a week for sure, and one day might be an optional day. And I think that's for both those buildings. I'm not sure that we have shared completely what the high school is looking at, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have some sort of cohort model like that. Kate, I don't know if we have anyone from the district office team on the chat. My screen's very limited in this share your screen mode. So I don't know if there's someone who thinks they might be able to address the high school part.
I'm not sure either.
Okay, that's fine. I think they would jump in if they, oh, we got someone. Hi, calling user 3. All right, so I don't see anyone from the district. Here's what I do think is going to happen. I know that this choice is a concern for parents. We really have tried to set this up as an option. You've got to make a choice, and in making that choice, there might be some electives that we can't provide in the virtual environment. And you may still make this the choice because given whatever the situation is for your family, in-person learning just isn't viable. So that becomes that choice you have to make. I do think that there might be a possibility that prior to that deadline, you might get a little more information. I know that right now the board is holding their retreat, and so they're getting information, and they're providing some feedback. I know that there will be a meeting with the Marathon County Health Department, and we maybe get more. So my guess, and again, it's only a guess, because we really have been assigned some different roles and tasks to prepare for this coming year. My guess would be that you might get some kind of information maybe late this week or Monday morning latest with a little more information, but I don't know that you'll get all of the plans until I think we're talking about a presentation on the 19th. So I think that's the best answer that I have for you in that now.
I think you're good to go ahead and move on to the last part.
Okay. All right, so enrollment information. The deadline is Monday, August 10th, and I've been asked this a lot of times. Yes, it's a hard deadline. Here's why it's a hard deadline. Like I told you, if we have 300 enrollments, that's an elementary school. 300 enrollments means I have to go to the junior high, to the middle school, to the senior high, talk to principals. I've got a bunch of candidates that are really good. I need to pull this full-time teacher out of your staff, and then we have to, shift students into other sections to make all of that happen. That's why we need the time for that. We also have to coordinate some of the other pieces, the technology part of it. The Genius and Buzz systems, they do not work very well with the iPads. So the iPads that every student has, they're going to have to turn in, and the district will provide a device. And I saw a question pop up on the screen. No, I can't guarantee that a student's going to get a new laptop. I do know that Mr. McBride, who is our technology director, he has been scouring the district. I would not be shocked if you turned in your iPad and you got a Mac Mini with some kind of monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. If you look at the requirements link that's on the 612 tab for the Virtual Academy, you'll see that we've got technology requirements, and we share that with you. The computer that you already have at home, that you're going to plan on your student using meets those requirements, they could use it. Then they don't have to use a device provided by the school. Maybe you're a parent and you're looking because you're interested in this type of enrollment. You were gonna get a laptop for your student. You'll know what those requirements are so that you're able to do that. So moving down to the last piece here, the commitment is for semester one or the entire year. And we have already had people, so remember the deadline's the 10th. We had people who signed their student up for the entire year, and then they talked to us afterwards and they said, you know what, we prefer just first semester. Up until the 10th, we can make that adjustment, okay? So what we won't be able to do is have students kind of coming in and out. You know, I'm a month into the virtual academy. I don't know if I like this. You're in for a semester, but we are DC Everest and we'll look at things on a case-by-case basis. But those will be very, very limited if we were to make a change. Certainly if you're in face-to-face learning and you say, hey, I would like to be in the virtual academy, we would welcome you to enroll for second semester. Because again, once we set this up, we shared with you those ratios already, and to be adding kids later in, we maybe overload a teacher or a coach. So we'll be making all those decisions based on that. And after the enrollment part, we may have some more questions, Kate.
So one connected to what you just said. So if their student is enrolled in semester one, can they enroll in semester two later if it's going well, or is it we need a full year commitment right now?
No, we don't need a full year commitment right now, because in December we're going to revisit this, and if you're in that first semester, we will give you an opportunity to enroll. And again, it helps us with our planning. Let's say that we have 300 in first semester and we end up with more students wanting to be in second semester, or we end up with less. We have to adjust our staffing based on those student enrollments. So if it's a great fit, and I would say get a hold of us, either Kate or myself. And if you're like, wow, this is going great, I know for sure I want the whole year, we can work on that. But we will definitely have an enrollment informational session that we'll probably do prior to the start of second semester, so we can get interested students in the system and enrolled so that they're ready to roll for second semester.
I think that's it for now.
Okay. Okay, look, we've tried to cover this educational framework for you. We've talked about curriculum. And again, after Dr. Thompson and I do some work in looking, we will post actually to the website. Here's the courses available. Here's kind of a brief description of them so you get a better sense of what they are. Parent engagement, I'll stress again, we need your help. I don't need you to teach your kids, but I need you find that quiet place for them to be able to learn. If you take a look at the parent roles and responsibilities, we've got a link and it works. It's the same link provided by the K-5 EVA, because it's a great setup that they talk about. Create this space for your student as best you can. Really, the nice part is each student would get a device. So I know in the spring, we sometimes ended up where maybe there was one device that was having to be shared. We're going to make sure that each kid has a device to be able to connect and interact. Schedule will be the same as the high school schedule. We go into more detail on the website. I would encourage you to go there, click on the roles and responsibilities link, and you'll see kind of what we're expecting from everyone. Students, teachers, parents, and our coaches, and then the enrollment information. So one more time, because we know there are questions. One more time, does anyone have a question?
Could we enroll in EVA during the semester if there's an outbreak and in-person classes get canceled?
No. And your in-person teachers, they're planning for the possibility of having to go fully virtual. So that virtual learning, they would get through there. And again, what we're asking, in a non-pandemic school year, we we might not have potentially 300 students in the EVA. We would have a smaller number of students. We wouldn't be looking at shifting so much staffing around. So we can't do that. But certainly if we're in first semester, we have to go virtual, and you or your student aren't liking that experience, I'd welcome you to sign up for second semester.
So I did, I entered Jeff's email and my email in the chat section as well. So if there's a question that you have that you'd rather not throw out to the large group, you're more than welcome to email it to us at any point. I think, Jeff, there's nothing else coming through.
All right. So thank you all for attending. Kate and I are available, like she said, via email. I think even on the website, they've got my school phone number. So if you want to call, you want to talk about it, we are able to do that. And I think what we'll maybe do is have Kate set up like a Google Voice number so that she can still get calls if you called her. Some of you may know her, you're more comfortable calling her, that's fine. We're here to answer questions. I won't always have an answer you want to hear. And that I think we have to stress. It's a choice, and I know it's a tough choice. If I were you as a parent, if my students were school age now, there'd be a lot on my mind, a lot I have to think about. Hopefully, we've shared enough information that you feel, I feel fully comfortable in this choice, or I think I want to do what the face-to-face offering will be. And when I contact you and answer some questions, hopefully, we help you make that decision. So thanks for coming today. We've got one more session from 7 to 8. I know there's a lot of information in these. This one we did record, so we'll get it posted online later, okay? So thank you all. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon.